All You Need to Know, the Bloomberg Quint podcast that prepares you for the day's business.
Good morning, and thanks for listening in. Over the next few minutes, we'll tell you everything that you need to know to stay ahead of the curve this Thursday. This is the All You Need to Know podcast from Bloomberg Quint, and I'm Alex Matthew. Today is the 30th of July. Starting with the big story, because that's what's already had a bearing on global markets and is likely to impact ours as well. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell warned that the US is facing the most severe economic downturn in our lifetime, as the central bank left interest rates near zero and vowed to use all its tools to support a recovery. In its statement announcing the policy decision, the Federal Open Market Committee repeated language that it has used before, saying that the pandemic poses considerable risks to the economic outlook over the medium term and that the federal funds rate would remain near zero until it is confident that the economy has weathered recent events and is on track to achieve its maximum employment and price stability goals. Now, equity markets in the US ended higher yesterday, with the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq climbing 1.2 and 1.3% respectively, and the Dow gaining about 0.6%. What's more, indices futures are flat at this stage, so the gains may not be short-lived. Asian equities have started with gains as well, with all three early risers starting in the green. The other big story is from back home. The Home Ministry announced yesterday that night curfew has been removed and gyms can reopen. These form part of the relaxations that have been announced in the third phase of lifting of lockdown restrictions, even as COVID-19 cases, as we've been telling you every day, have been mounting on a daily basis. Meanwhile, in Maharashtra, which is the state with the most number of COVID-19 cases, the government has announced that the lockdown in the state will continue till the 31st of August. The restrictions are not as strict as they were during the first rendition of the lockdown, though. Have a look at the details in the story on the website bloombergquint.com. In other news, Finance Secretary Ajay Bhushan Pandey has told a parliamentary panel that the central government will not be able to pay the promised 14% GST compensation to states due to low tax collections. The issue of delay in payment of compensation to states was raised by opposition party members in the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance. Pandey said the promise of protecting states' revenue at an annual 14% growth rate was based on certain assumptions which could not be met. The story here is that, according to a legal expert, any change in the formula for compensating states will need an amendment in the GST Act after approval from the GST Council. And if the central government makes amendments to the Act without prior approval from the GST Council, the states can potentially move the Supreme Court challenging the changes as ultra vires. In the aviation space, Interglobe Aviation, the parent of Indigo Airlines, came out with its results yesterday, and they were badly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Going forward, the management has warned that capacity will likely reduce by 60% in the quarter ended September. Apart from earnings today, of which there are a few key ones that Agam will tell you about, the big update to watch out for will be this evening, when the US GDP print for the second quarter of 2020 is released. US domestic GDP is forecast to have fallen by an annualized 34.8% in the quarter ended June, which is the most in records dating back to the 1940s, according to Bloomberg. And with that, it's over to Agam Vakil for the trade setup for the day in India. Good morning, Agam. How are we looking this Thursday morning?
Good morning, Alex, and good morning, listeners. Well, we are looking at some amount of strength in the SGX Nifty futures this morning, which means we could see a partial recovery from yesterday's losses. The SGX Nifty futures is currently up a little over 25 odd points. But we get on to earnings, and Bharti Airtel is the big one, where we have seen its net sales or revenues move up 1% quarter on quarter. There has, however, been a significantly large net loss of a little less than 16,000 crores versus a net loss of 5,237 crores over the previous sequential quarter. Margins have remained steady at 43.5%, with average revenues per user coming at 157 rupees versus 154 rupees. Now, the reason why we are looking at such a big loss is because the group has recorded an incremental provision of an additional 10,744 crores for EGR dues recorded as exceptional loss. We move on to Interglobe Aviation, and it's been another bad quarter for the company. It's reported its biggest loss since listing on weak demand and suspension of flight operations due to COVID-19. The company has registered a 92% decline in its revenue at 767 crores, and its net loss stands at 2,844 crores versus a profit of 1,200 crores year on year. It's not very different for TVS Motor Company either, where it's seen its net sales decline 68% year on year for the first quarter, with a net loss of 139 crores versus a profit of 142 crores year on year, and there has in fact been an operational loss of 49 crores versus a gain. Today, we watch out for HDFC Limited and Reliance Industries among the biggies, and also Dabur and Laurus Labs among the many other important earnings that will come out today. Moving beyond earnings, we have an update from Eicher Motors. It says as of March 20th, the company was successful in clearing all its existing inventory of BS4 motorcycles across channels and dealerships, and as on date, more than 85% of its dealers have begun operations. Shankara Building Products also has an update owing to COVID-19. It says walk-ins in retail stores have reduced and home construction plans have been deferred. The enterprise segment has been impacted by end-use demand. And finally, in the primary markets, we have Mindspace Business Park's REIT IPO, where it's been subscribed 13 times on day 3. Institutional subscription stands at 10.6 times and retail subscription stands at 15.8 times. Now, these are just some of the companies we can watch out for as we move into trade today, but don't forget to go through our morning edition of All You Need to Know only on BloombergQuint.com.
Thanks, Agam. And as always, thank you all for listening in. This is Alex Matthews signing off. Have a great day.
I hope you enjoyed listening to All You Need to Know. Did you know that you can listen to the show on the IVM Podcast app? On the IVM Podcast app, along with this, we have a number of other shows which you think you'll enjoy. Listen to Cyrus Says with Cyrus Brocha as the host. Listen to Pesa Vesa with Anupam Gupta. The Scene and the Unseen with Amit Verma, or Shunya One hosted by Shiladitya Mukhopadhyay and myself. Check out the IVM Podcast app to get more talk content that you will enjoy.